Hey guys, I just got done binge watching Stranger Things Season 1, and I still have so many questions. I wanted to ask the Duffer Brothers themselves, and I figured this was the best way to go about it. Duffers, are you here? Holy crap, it actually worked! Dang it! It's that kid again! Now, listen, I told you I am not your mother. What's up guys, welcome to Ending Explained. The 80s are back baby and better than ever thanks to the sweet nostalgia of the new Netflix series, Stranger Things. Everything about this show is top notch, from the homages to classic 80s movies, striking cinematography, excellent acting from everyone. The kids are really charming. And if there's an award for chain smoking and being very, very upset, Winona Ryder is a shoo-in. And of course the synth-dominated soundtrack that sounds like John Carpenter and Tangerine Dream taking a midnight drive through the New Mexico desert. Alright, so the ending itself does need explanation, but this is one of those shows that there are so many questions. So I'm going to look at the ending with Will, but also other lingering questions and give my theory about the monster. The season also ends with a couple different teases that set up a continued story for season 2, which I will take a look at as well. If it's not already clear, my brain is exploding with so many things to discuss, so I think it's best to start at the beginning. Not of the show, but chronologically, and provide a look at where things began. There's a lot about the beginning of what happened that is a little difficult to follow, as it's mainly seen in brief flashbacks over the course of the season. We all know the main story is to find out what happened to the missing Will, but it really started decades ago at the shadowy Hawkins research facility, including our villain of sorts, Dr. Brenner. He was originally part of a group called MK Ultra, which was a real thing. Their main MO involves experiments attempting to increase the capacity of the human mind via the use of hallucinogenic drugs. The government is at least somewhat tied in with the facility, and Brenner wants to use the test subjects for his own means. Over the years, they have had several subjects, as seen with Eleven, being named Eleven. One of the earlier subjects was Trisha Ives, Eleven's mom, now seen as a drugged out husk, but she must have had some powers as well. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense that Brenner would be so interested in Eleven even before birth. As a baby, Brenner took Eleven from Trisha and covered this up by pumping her full of drugs to excess and creating the story of Eleven dying before being born. From birth, Brenner formed a fake father relationship with the child, as we see she calls him Papa. This is all in order to persuade her to willingly participate in his mind experiments. It doesn't seem like Brenner doses Eleven with LSD, but it's possible. So it seems like all the powers that Eleven is capable of have always been inside her. As Eleven gets older and develops her abilities, the experiments build in intensity, eventually building to utilizing a sensory deprivation chamber to harness her powers further, known as the bath. Here she is able to concentrate her mind enough to focus on a single subject thousands of miles away, in this case a Russian general. We are presented with a black emptiness all around the two of them. I don't believe this is supposed to be the upside down, more like seeing into Eleven's mind's eye, or sort of like Cerebro. Duh. So clearly Brenner and the government are attempting to use her to gain intel on their enemy. This was the height of the Cold War after all. But then she encounters something else in this space, a monster. On their first encounter she runs away, and of course Brenner is interested in learning more about what she saw exactly. So it's back in the tank where she encounters the monster again, and we don't really see what he's munching on, but he does seem to sort of look content left alone, just kind of doing his monster thing in this parallel dimension, not really bothering anybody. That all changes when Eleven touches the monster, creating the doorway and a direct link between our two dimensions. I consider that since we are seeing into Eleven's mind, that the monster could represent a part of her psyche, but I don't think so. Here's what I think would be much more interesting. We know the monster has been described as human-like. When Nancy first saw it, she thought it was a person wearing a mask, and we also know there have to be test subjects before Eleven. So I think that the monster seen is actually a former test subject that became trapped in the upside down, mutating into the beast it is now. It doesn't have eyes anymore because it doesn't need them, and uses its powers to see with its mind, similar to Eleven. Also, Brenner doesn't seem that surprised really when the monster shows up. He just gets her to go back in and make contact.
Today, we make contact.
Possibly because he was actually hoping to find the monster again. Now that the door has been opened, the monster is able to form doorways of its own into our world. Or as it's described in this show, it's a flea, able to travel on the side or underneath dimensions, while humans are acrobats, stuck on the straight line of travel. But I think that Eleven is also a flea, but hadn't harnessed that level of her ability yet. But maybe now that she's gone Dark Phoenix to take out the monster, I believe she too can create doors. It feels like what happens is she does destroy the monster, but is pulled into the upside down as well. Again, they are tying the two of them closer together as kind of different sides of the same monster. The monster is hunting because it is merely an animal, however Eleven is seen killing several people to survive. And the monster is also seen at first to have telekinetic abilities, unlocking the sliding chain, similar to Eleven. So is creating doorways the next level of Eleven's abilities now unlocked? I believe so. And she's not dead, of course. We see Hopper at the end leaving snacks in a box deep in the woods, including Eggos, which Eleven loves. so he has to be in contact with her now in some form, whether she's in our dimension or the Upside Down. Alright, there's way more to the story, but that's enough groundwork of where things began to get us to the ending. The monster is destroyed and Will is brought back from the Upside Down. Yay! But in the end, turns out everything isn't so perfect after all. Will excuses himself to the bathroom looking at himself in the mirror and vomits up a slug, and momentarily the Upside Down blinks into our world, then gone again. Will washes the slug down the drain and returns to family dinner like nothing is out of the ordinary. So what's the deal? I think the brief flash of the Upside Down is more to symbolize that it is now part of Will forever, and can't really ever go back to normal, permanently affected by his experience on the other side. And as far as the slug, when we see Joyce and Hopper exploring the Upside Down, they come across Will attached to the wall with the same dark growth and webbing from around the doorway. And at one point, other people must have been brought here as well, as there are more bodies and skulls seen. This particular concept is very reminiscent of Alien, where the xenomorph also has a nest of people. And the purpose of this in Alien is to hibernate eggs to create more aliens. So I think this is the same idea for the monster here, a nest to create more monsters. And this monster does that via slugs rather than the facehugger seen in Alien. Plus, we see that Will has a tentacle covering his mouth that is pumping something into him. No doubt slugs, or perhaps eggs, hibernating inside of him, also like an alien. And if that's not enough, Hopper sees a cracked open egg that is clearly designed to reference, yes, you guessed it, RoboCop. I mean Alien. And so this egg is maybe from the monster we've seen all season, but probably is from another one that was bred via the slugs and we haven't seen. It's also possible, and something I considered, that Will is actually turning into a monster himself. Maybe the monster has been taking people in order to make more monster buddies, because the monster doesn't eat the people it takes. Barb does end up dead, but is seen with the slugs coming out of her mouth, not that she was eaten. So he could have been using Barb for the same purpose as Will, and she was captured longer by the monster.
Will was taken at the end of episode 7, he was hiding out until then.
So Barb had been captured and being fed slugs longer until they killed the host body. But Will got rescued before this happened to him, so they didn't kill him, but he still has a belly full of slugs. Another potential clue that Will could be turning monster. When he sees his family for the first time in the hospital, he notes John's bandaged hand. It's presented as no big deal, but I had considered that maybe Will could smell the blood, just like the monster does to hunt its prey. I'm sure this is one of the threads we'll see explored further in a possible season 2. And there are a few other clues in the show that give us some idea of where things could be headed going forward. As the kids are reunited, they are at the tail end of another D&D marathon, just like at the beginning of the season. And whereas their other game foreshadowed the story of this season with the Demogorgon representing the monster, it makes sense that the game at the end of this season would have similar bearing for season 2. This time they have to face the dreaded Trestle Hydra.
Will's role defeats the Trestle Hydra this time and the campaign ends.
But the kids are annoyed at all the dangling loose ends.
Makes sense.
Oh no, what about the lost night?
I think this refers to Hopper. He definitely had a big arc from where he started as a drunken, uncaring small-town sheriff to saving a kid from an alternate dimension.
And the proud princess?
I think this is 11. Her fate is left up in the air at this point. We don't see her after disappearing with the monster. And by Hopper as the knight and her as the princess, it hints that they are connected and more to be seen on their relationship. I mean, he did sell her out to get access to the doorway, and now he's leaving snacks for her in the woods. Something happened between these two times between the two of them. Also, he is now seemingly being forced into servitude by Hawkins National when he gets picked up at the hospital. So he still is having to struggle with both the good and bad sides of his personality.
And those weird flowers in the cave?
I think this references the open egg we saw, hinting at more monsters out there. And the monster's head is bizarrely reminiscent of a tulip opening its petals, and he has already earned the nickname from fans, Tulip Head. And the three-headed Hydra monster, this indicates that there is more evil at work out there. They only killed one of the heads. More is still left behind to be dealt with, like Will's aforementioned incubating slugs. Also, as far as we know, the door is still there in Hawkins National. Nothing is ever done to close it or anything, so we have to assume that it is still there. And finally, we get a few more clues about the aftermath on the shot of a bulletin board. When I saw this frame come up starting on just a wall of newspaper articles, I had a feeling this would be one of those things worth pausing on to investigate further. The most interesting thing is an article scene that talks about what happened shortly after Will came back from the Upside Down. It's mentioned that Joyce alleges that Will was the subject of a secret government program run by the Hawkins National Laboratory. The allegation comes amidst a massive investigation into the hidden organization and its elaborate experimentations in perusal of mind control. So she totally spilled the beans. Okay. Hopper told her specifically not to mention Hawkins Institute at all after making his deal. Seems weird that she would say any of this at all to the press. Next, we see a statement from someone with the last name Ives. In a statement issued yesterday, Ives mentioned her disgust with the organization saying, "Our own American people are being treated like the enemy." This is also strange because we see the name Ives as in Trisha, but she's basically a vegetable. So it must be your sister in this case? But she didn't really seem that knowledgeable or really caring that much when Hop and Joyce met her earlier. Strange. And finally, under legal advice, Brenner has issued no comment. Wait, Brenner? You mean the dude that got jumped on by the monster last time we saw him? He's alive? If this is true, I actually wouldn't be that surprised. John, Steve, and Nancy were able to fight back against the monster, and Brenner had a whole bunch of heavily armed dudes around, at least enough to help him get to safety. However, it is possible that this is a false statement from Hawkins National on his behalf in order to present the appearance of normalcy, and they have done similar things in the past, covering up things to save themselves from problems. So just from this one article, there is so much stuff that is glossed right over that adds a lot more to where things are in terms of the plot a month later. I mean, the first season was maybe in a week or something. Who knows what all went down in that month? It could be anything. That's something that could be an interesting direction for season 2. Stories taking place in the present, but showing missing plot points that happened in that month. And seriously, what is going on at Hawkins National now? Is Brenner really alive? If so, and if Hopper is being forced to work for them, the kids and the absent 11 are in as much danger as ever before. Geez, there's just too much to consider. Ah! So we do have closure regarding the disappearance of Will, the force that drove most of the season. But there's still so much more to explore, and I can't wait to see what the Duffers have in store. I thought the show had officially been renewed for season 2, but not yet, apparently. I'm sure it's a given, really. Otherwise, Netflix are morons. Yeah, renew Fuller House and not Stranger Things. I sure hope not. But even before season 2, I still feel like there's so much more to say about this season, and I may be doing more videos talking about other aspects of the show, like maybe a top 10 movie references. I'm not sure yet. But what about you guys? What questions have you been pondering since watching the show? Put them down in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and make sure to subscribe. Also, stay tuned to FoundFlix for all the best in horror entertainment.